I want to read you a quote and get your opinion on it. Bill Ackman has said, "We're heading for a self-induced economic nuclear winter, and we should start hunkering down if tariffs remain." Why should people care?
Well, most people, whether they know it or not, are invested in the stock market, and it really does kind of appear to be the verge of a nuclear winter. I think that quote, that was a very long thread that he posted on X, and he has done a very good job historically of freaking out right at the bottom. Have you noticed that? If you look at every time he freaks out and goes on CNBC and cries, or he has a moment, that is the moment where the market has bottomed. So I can't make a prediction based on a Ackman quote, but it's grim, and at some point, markets always go up.
Ackman is just trying to make a point. He's trying to guide policy, right? So, okay, technically what he said is true, but that's if no one does anything, which we all know that won't happen, right? People are going to do things. Policy will change. It will get adjusted. He's calling out, if you stay on this track and go in even deeper, it will result in this bad outcome. But we all know that's not going to happen, right? At least not in that manner without anyone trying to get in front of it. So technically I think he's right, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen.
What do you think the breaking point is? Because there is the fear that if tariffs stay on the same path that they are and other countries refuse to back down, and that would be namely China, that things could get substantially worse. And everyone has the assumption Trump is not going to back down, because if he does, he's going to appear weak. And China, they have a lot of leverage as well, because we get a lot of product from China. They have very cheap goods and services, and they allow us to buy iPhones at $1,000 versus $3,500.
You got to get in the mindset of Trump, right? Because he is unilaterally calling the shots. So for you to call this, you have to call Trump correctly. I was wrong last week. I didn't go in hedge strong enough last week.
No, I didn't either.
The history of Trump is that he will reverse really quickly at any sign of disapproval or any sign of losing, right? And
this time
he
around,
didn't do this.
I don't think that the stock market is his barometer this time around. I think his approval rating will be the thing that if it gets low enough, then he'll...
But approval rating, Dave, is delayed by about a month.
Yeah, it's like a survey.
4 to 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So he won't see that for a little while. Okay, so let's just talk about this. You're saying if the tariffs go through as they're proposed, that won't happen. That can't happen. We all know that. That cannot happen.
What's going to stop that from happening?
Any type of rational thought.
We'll
start, right. So
thank you guys right now.
But if you look at the tariffs as they're written, there's just no possible way that those tariffs can be implemented in that manner for any meaningful amount of time. It will result in such chaos that there's not any administration, including Trump at his craziest. Do you agree, Dave? That would allow that to actually happen for any prolonged period of time. So here's the thing. There's a lot of stuff happening right now, and there are a lot of rumors, and there are a lot of opinions, and things are changing multiple times a day. So
the market was prepared for a version of this. The market was prepared for reciprocal tariffs that were actually reciprocal tariffs, but that's not what we got. The market was going up when he said 10% across the board.
Yeah.
Then he pulls out the old easel or the chart.
Yeah.
And those numbers were not close to what anyone was expecting. Labeled reciprocal, but not at all. This is not a reciprocal tariff. And to call it that, I think reciprocal tariffs might actually be effective. Basing reciprocal tariffs on an actual formula that makes sense mathematically, that is reciprocal. And if you really want to target a trade imbalance, you could make that a portion of the ratio, but it doesn't make sense the way it is now.
We could talk about what they should do or shouldn't do, but it really doesn't matter what we think. The reality is that when you have situations like this where there are a lot of possible outcomes, what we need to do as investors is what I call run scenario analysis, right? So essentially, you're looking at every single scenario that could play out, and you are assigning probabilities to each scenario. Now, you could actually do that, and you could spend a lot of time running 60 different scenarios of every way that this storyline could play out and the percentages that you assess to each of those scenarios. And then you could look at how many of those scenarios would result in the market being okay and quickly recovering, and how many of those scenarios would result in something catastrophic happening. Well, you could do that, but I'm just going to tell you right now that if you were to go through that process, there are very few scenarios, very few that would result in any type of catastrophic situation that would last for any meaningful amount of time. Right? It would be so irrational. And while people can do irrational things in government for short periods of time, history has shown us that it almost never has durability. The government and policymakers will always revert back to something normal, something comfortable, something safe. Something safe for their party, something safe for their future votes. Okay, so if you just look at the scenario analysis, I feel really, really good that we're going to get through this. Like, the exact timing and the exact nature of how we get through it is to be determined. But guys, I have lived through 87. I was young, but my family was in the market and I lived through it, and I remember it like it was yesterday. Dave and I were right in the heat of it.
Yeah.
No, 2000 during the dot-com boom and bust. 2008, we were definitely in the heat of it. Of course, COVID was one of our largest investment trades of my lifetime. And this doesn't even feel remotely as scary as any of those when you were to run the scenario analysis, meaning with each of those situations, there was a higher likelihood of leading us into a bad place that could last for a while. Like, I just don't see that here. I just don't.
Personally, I don't think Trump is going to back down. I think there's going to be a rift between Trump and China. China's not going to back down. Trump's not going to back down. I think that's going to spook the markets longer than people expect. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another 10 to 15% downside from here. But I also wouldn't be surprised if Trump delays things and just says, okay, for the next 30 days, we're not going to implement anything, and we're going to see if we could work something out, or spin something in his favor where it's like, oh, actually, we got this thing, and we're never planning on the full tariffs as it was, but now we got this. And so we're winning, and we're way further ahead, something like that. That's what I think is going to happen.
I'm closer to that viewpoint. I think that this big number, the big tariff number, was a scare tactic. It spooks the market. He was trying to spook other countries. The likelihood of it going through as stated on that chart, I think, is very low. But I agree with you that China is going to be the sticking point. We've already seen countries coming and saying 0%. I think we could avoid all of this if China just came back and said whatever their actual tariff rate is, if they're, I don't know what it is, if it's 6%, 7%, whatever their current tariff on U.S. imports into China is, if they just made a broad statement and said, you know what, our average, Trump, we are going to lower our tariffs to whatever it currently is, 8%, 6%.
Which would be dramatically lower than what
lower than what that chart said.
It was, right? Yeah.
I think Trump could take that as a win and say, oh, well, we won with China, and we're going to do a reciprocal tariff with China now. And if other countries did that, like we've already seen some come back and say 0. We haven't yet seen the administration respond to those with a new low rate. But I think that the other countries, if they bring Japan sending their master negotiator to the White House, did you see that?
I did.
Okay, I'm sure that master negotiator can outsmart whoever put that chart together. Hot take.
What do you think?
Trump wants the win, and he's going to ensure that he gets the win, right? Like, and I don't think he's going to take months before he's willing to get the win. I think it's more like
But that could be
weeks.
a perceptual win for him.
Well, correct.
Not necessarily a financial win.
Correct. Right. So like
He wants
what I mean by that is I think he wants to close the door on this. Trump has a long history of not wanting to stay on a single topic or issue for any prolonged period of time. He likes to move on. Right. He likes to move on for something else. I'm sure he's already thinking of the next thing he wants to talk about or deal with. And it's probably not this tariff situation. So I think the situation gets resolved probably in weeks. What does resolved mean? It doesn't even really matter, right? It just doesn't matter.
When do we get the trillions of dollars back into the market, though? That's what we really want to know.
Because the market doesn't, as long as it's relatively rational, right? As long as it's relatively the same as it is today. We might have some additional tariffs. We might have some additional provisions, some additional trade deals. It might look a little different. But the market just wants certainty, because if you're a U.S. company, first of all, you cannot onshore your manufacturing. You're not going to spend billions to onshore your manufacturing, which will take 3 to 5 years and put you in a time period when none of that might matter. And now your competitors are still manufacturing in Vietnam and India at half the price that you can't afford to do that. But you also can't afford to start expanding internationally if you don't know exactly what this situation looks like, right? Additionally, earnings season is about to hit. Now, if you're a CEO, are you going to guide? Are you even going to provide guidance? I think we might be back in a 2020, 2021 scenario where CEOs are like, we can't provide guidance.
Yeah,
that's going to rock the market.
They can't predict what's going to happen, so they can't give guidance. So they get the perfect excuse to pull guidance.
So the next few days to few weeks can continue to be really volatile. And there are a lot of ways that the scenario analysis can play out in the short run, but I think there are less ways that it can play out in the long run, which is why I don't really care. I actually hope this lasts a little bit now, because I'm trying to earn some income. I'm doing some things to try to get some cash, and I'm just hoping that the market is still kind of here or lower by the time that cash hits, so I can go in deeper. Guys, I think we're going to be fine.